Good morning everyone, I am Shreyushi Nayak and welcome to Tuaman Engineering Limited, and today I'm going to talk about conflict management. So well, we all have been in a situation or we have seen people disagreeing in a very active manner, and that means you already have been in a conflicting situation. So in this video I'm going to talk about how to go for a better conflict management. So in the agenda, I have what is conflict, what are the different causes of a conflict, how we can map a conflict, what are the effects of a conflict, what are the different stages through which a conflict goes. We're going to also study a famous theory of Thomas and Gilman. And lastly, what are the different strategies of a conflict management. What is a conflict? Well, the term conflict was coined in the early 15th century. It is a Latin word which is known as conflictus, which means to strike hard. And later it turns to a conflict in Indian ideology, and it means the term conflict means disagreement between people. The conflict management means how to diffuse the disagreement between the people. So, next is what are the different causes of conflict? Whether you are at workplace or you are at home, conflict are bound to happen. So why does the conflict arises? The simple reason is people are different. People come from different background and people have different perception in life, and because of this a conflict occurs. So some of the conflict are, number one is needs. So people are brought up in different scenario, having a different mindset, and in different which are mindset is different, and which are very main causes of a conflict. So number one is needs. Number two is values. People come from different culture having different values, and because of this also a conflict arises. Pressure. So people respond very differently to pressure. Some people can really crack under pressure, whereas certain people can really stay calm and able to reduce the conflict and in a very nice manner. Next is people have different perception or have a different evaluation system. So people perceive the same thing in a different manner, because and which may also cause to a conflict. Next is styles. People have different styles in performing their duties and tasks, which may also cause a conflict between the groups or within the groups. Next is policies. So people have different principles, policies, and ideologies, which may also causes a conflict. So these are some of the causes of conflict. There are other points as well. Are. Next is mapping the conflict. So how do we map the conflict? Well, the mapping of conflict means when you are in a conflicting situation and when two or more people are stuck into a conflicting situation, you need to map the conflict by considering. Number one is defining the issue. So it's very important to define the issue, the reason why a conflict arises. You need to understand the crux of the matter or issue, why people are conflicting with each other. Next is identify who is involved. So it's also very important to identify or know who are the people or the number of people who are involved in a conflict. So a person, those person who are involved in conflict might or might not present in the situation. So it's very important to identify who are the people involved in a conflict. Next is list the major needs and concern of each party. So when two or more party are conflicting with each other, everybody has a different needs while they are conflicting. So it's important to understand what are their needs, what are their concern, what they bring to the group or what they bring to the organization. So you need to understand their needs and concern. Uh, Next is reading the map. In a conflicting situation, it is important to stick to the agenda on which the conflict is there. So be within the time frame or within the map area of the conflict. Do not go out of the context. So these are some of the some of the components while you need to while you go for a mapping of the conflict. Next is words that instigate a conflict. So there are certain words or phrases which are instigating the negative words. When you somehow listen to this, or here you just get flare up and you just want to have a conflict or a disagreement with the people, and the words are like, you never did that, it sounds too rude or negative, it's good for you to do that, oh whatever, I never did that, it's quite similar to you never did that. Next is, I told you earlier. Next is, never mind. So these are some of the negative words. So now how can we counteract to these negative words? Only by using the words or phrases that diffuses a conflict. The positive words like, if you can do this, one option is, we can help you too. Or let me explain you in a better manner. We can understand that. Might I suggest? There is also one point which I have not mentioned here. It's like, you are right. So whenever you are talking or you are having in a conflicting situation, if you just say the words, you are right, I understand you, but. So first when you say you are right, I understand you, we can understand you. So it gives a positive impact. And then you go on after saying, but you did this, you did that, but we can go for with another option. So these are the words which really work with the human psychology. So whenever you are in a conflicting situation, try to use these words or phrases that diffuses a conflict. So next is effects of a conflict. So conflict can be a positive or negative effect on the people of the organization. It really depends on how you handle. Some people thought that conflict is always bad, but let me tell you, some conflict can really be good, because when people really express themselves, share their different points of opinions and thoughts and feelings, it make themselves express more, and it's a good knowledge learning for other people also. So the good conflict may leads to collaboration between the team members. Well, when teams are working together, having a good discussion or collaboration, it can really affect the team spirit and team bonding. Like next is, conflict management can lead to a better working relationship. So when you are having a good change of thought or processes, etc., it leads to a better working relationship with your team members or with your peers member. Next, it also increases the productivity of yourself, and also it increases the team productivity of an organization. It you make, and next is trust among colleagues. You can share your different points of opinions. Trust increases between the and that leads to the increase in the trust among your colleagues. Next is enhancement engagement. So, and that leads to enhanced the engagement. You are more motivated and more excited to work with your team if your conflicts are being managed well. So, these are some of the effects of a good conflict in an organization. Next is stages of conflict. Well, a conflict goes through different stages. It is not blown out of proportion, has to go through different stages. So the first stage is the latent stage. So in this, it is the initial stage where people are not aware that there might be in conflict. So people are left unaware, they don't know, it is just the beginning of the conflict. Next stage, the second stage, is the perceived stage. In this stage, the people get to know, or they know that there might be any conflict. So they get aware of the existence of the conflict. Next is the felt stage. In this stage, the conflict is felt, so thereby there occurs anxiety, stress, where you can feel that conflict is all around you. And the fourth stage is the manifest stage. Like in this stage, the conflict is manifested, meaning the conflicts get open, and it can be observed by the people who are involved in the conflict, and also other people who are not involved in the conflict. So it is noticed by everyone. And the last stage is the aftermath stage. So here the conflict has a result or a particular outcome, whether it is resolved or it is not resolved, but it has to be a particular outcome. Well, in this 5 stage, like a person can be in the manifested stage, like the conflict is already opened and observed, but and still he can be having a stress and anxiety. So it's not like that, that after moving from one stage to next, to after completely having the first stage, then you can go to the second stage, and when you are in the second stage, nothing anything of the first stage is involved with you. It's not like that. You can have same you can have uh, been in the different stages at the same time. Like a person who is in the manifest stage, he can have stress and anxiety, and a person who is the conflict has been resolved, and the person can after having the or not resolved, the person can have stress and anxiety, or it is open to everyone. So uh, the 2 3 stages can happen one at a time, not one at a time, it can happen in the same time. So these are the stages of conflict. Next is the very most important of this module, the theory, the Thomas and Kilman theory. So it was coined by two gentlemen, Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilman, in the year 1974, and they observed that conflicts are everywhere, and people behave in a different manner in a different situation. They also say that no two people are alike, and everybody has a different way of behaving in a conflicting situation. So, and these two gentlemen have also uh, come up with two terminologies. Number one is assertiveness, and number two is cooperativeness. Well, assertiveness means it is of understanding how a person reacts to a particular situation when he is in a conflicting situation, and cooperative means how or what the extent to which a person is able to go beyond the call of duty, or rather help others by being cooperativeness. The simple meaning of assertiveness is to means thinking for yourself, and the simple meaning of cooperative means thinking for others. And these two gentlemen have also described the 4 behaviors. So the first is cooperative. The first is competitiveness, like and this one. In a conflicting situation, a person, his whole ideology that he is very high in assertiveness but low in cooperativeness, and he is somebody who wants to make people lose so that he can win. So a person who is very competitive in nature can have this type of uh, behavior in itself. On the opposite of competitive, we can see accommodating, like it's the complete opposite of competitiveness. It is high on cooperativeness but low on assertiveness. Means so don't really have a same thing, because you don't feel yourself putting first, but at the same time you have a high regards for other people, so you try to let go yourself so that the somebody else can have a win-win situation. And next we can see avoiding, like here the people who are very low on assertiveness as well as low on cooperativeness, this type of people run away from conflict whenever they are placed into a situation or there are lots of disagreement and difference of opinion. They just leave the situation and run for their life. And the opposite of avoiding is the collaborating. So these are the people who are very high in assertiveness as well as high in cooperativeness, and it's a very good strategy and behavior, because it is a win-win situation, and you like to put yourself assertive in high regards, and also at the same time you like to think for others, so which will leads to a win-win situation. And in the middle there is a compromising, so it is very closely related to collaborating, because in this you try to let go some of your things so that other person can have a win-win situation. So these are the different behaviors of Thomas and Kilman theory. Next is different forms of conflict. So conflict can be functional or dysfunctional. Functional conflicts are related to good conflict, and dysfunctional conflict are related to bad conflict. So in an organization, when people are working together and they're bound to have a different of opinion, and by this a functional conflict help in certain ways, like uh, it will work towards the goal of an organization or groups, because it helps to work towards the goal of an organization or groups. When people involved in a conflict, they try to resolve the differences and disagreement of and opinions, etc. That is what a functional conflict is. Next is a conflict which is constructive. It helps to come to a consensus. It is known as constructive conflict, and it helps to provide a solution to the problem. Next is it increases the information and ideas, because people share their points of view, they share and express themselves, which leads to have a good information and ideas. Next is it encourages innovation thinking or innovative thinking, and it's important to have a creativity when you are working in an organization. It unsettles different point of view, and it also reduces the different stagnancy. It reduces the stagnancy. It means people think of fresh, think of different point of view rather thinking of the same thing. So these are this functional conflict. Next is the dysfunctional conflict, like it blocks an organization or group from reaching its goal. So it it doesn't let organization to have a brainstorming situation, or it always blocks to have a proper knowledge learning session. Next is it increases or it gives rise to anxiety, stress, tension, and low trust. Definitely, when a conflict is occurring and they are not allowing a brainstorming session, this will lead to anxiety, stress, and low trust among the colleagues and team members. And it also drives a low tolerant people, and poor decision from lack of innovation, because people are not very innovative or creative in dysfunctional conflict, hence they are not creative, so it will lead to a poor decision making. And it also increases the stagnancy. So these are the some points comes under dysfunctional conflict, and there are other points too. Next is the strategies of a conflict management. So there are certain strategies of a conflict. So number one is remain calm. So whenever you are faced a conflicting situation, it is important to just remain calm and composed. Do not blown up or do not have an argument whenever somebody is shouting at you or having a different of opinion. Just remain calm and be composed. Next, let the other person talking. Let the other person do the talking. Let them vent out. Let them express themselves as much as they want, and you just have to listen to them and just remain calm. Next is consider the other person point of view. So it's very important to empathize. A person who is in a conflicting situation might share a lot of things with you on a personal or a professional note, so it's really very important to understand what they are saying and getting empathized with them. And next is understanding that there is a lot of power in the word yes. So I understand, like I understand what are you saying. Yes, we can help you too. When you are in a conflicting situation, let the other person know that you are at their side and not anybody else's side. So using positive words or phrases is very important. Like, yes, you are right. But we can go for this also. So these are the words which are really very positive, and it really gives a great impact on the human psychology. Next is if a situation turns verbally abusive, put a stop to it. So if a situation turns verbally abusive, please do not take it completely. Put a halt or a stop to it. You have your own self-respect, and you never ever let anybody else put you down by verbally abusing you. So if it's really get nasty, stop right there. Next is, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and take the responsibility there. So there is no harm in saying that I apologize and taking the responsibility for your action. So if you are wrong, you are wrong. Learn to take the responsibility of your action. Do not just run away. And lastly is that use the power of visualization. So visualize the conflict has resolved, or visualize that the conflict has ended beautifully for a win-win situation for everybody. That is the power of visualization. So these are some of the tips and tricks and strategies of conflict management. So just a quick recap of what we have learned till now. So what is conflict? What are the different causes or reason for rising of a conflict? Why mapping and is important, and how we can map a conflict? Some of the words or phrases that instigate and diffuses a conflict. So what are the effects of conflict? That is the good and how we can like how a good conflict can lead to a better working environment. What are the different stages of conflict? And we have also run the most important theory of Thomas and Kilman. What are the different functional and dysfunctional conflict? And lastly, I've also studied what are the different strategies of a conflict management. So there's an assessment link. I would request you to go through this to know about your learning progress. So that's all for today. I hope it will be a great help to you whenever you are going for a conflict management. It will be a great help for you. So that's all for today. Thank you, everyone.